It has been a minute, and welcome back to Streetcar Shenanigans YouTube channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing after this video or even right now so you don't forget, so you can stay in tune with some of the things that we're going to talk about in today's video. Today's video is going to be a quick recap on who we are, what we do, why we do it, and where we see this channel taking us in 2023 as we focus more on bringing you guys some of the content that we live on the day-to-day that we honestly take advantage of. I know I do, because I know it would be really cool to share everything with you guys, but the whole camera situation has made it more of a burden, and I've left it on the back burner. But in 2022, 2023, my resolution is that it will no longer be the case. I kind of want to bring you guys along on our journey like we did early on, and we turned that off on 2022. So, we are a performance shop in Antioch, Illinois. We're right on the border. We're like 45 minutes west of Lake Michigan, if that. And we primarily specialize in domestic performance vehicles. We have branched out quite a bit in 2022, meaning that we are pretty much comfortable on any platform. We do not want to lock ourselves down to anything. We have opened up our fabrication side. We do a lot of custom TIG welding, parts manufacturing, custom pieces. We have gotten a lot of contacts in the area that have allowed us to make a lot of crazy shit that we would have never thought we would have done a couple years ago. And a lot of that all happened throughout this growth process that we went through in 2022, which yielded us doing less YouTube and more practice, focus, make mistakes, fix it, and learn, and that's what we did a lot of in 2022. So it was a really good growth year for Streetcar Shenanigans, and I'm looking forward to how that will translate into 2023. We've been doing a lot more ECU tuning, standalone ECU tuning. We still aren't doing a whole ton of factory ECU stuff, although we are capable of it. But we focused ourselves on getting the standalone ECU tuning down. Mega Squirt, Holley, Hall Tech, Fuel Tech, all that stuff we've been playing a lot with and nerding out over. I brought up the fabrication side of it, and then obviously we are still tried and true on any kind of other modification. You can see the two 4.6 mod motors behind us. Both of them are built motors by us. Both of them have camshafts. They've been gone through the heads. They have good valve jobs. We are working with Rich RGR engines. So we are supplying some of the best mod motor builds in the area, hands down, bar none. Whether it's custom cams or just simple projects, built bottom ends, things like that. We're definitely bringing the heat in the mod motor division to the area, which is good because there's not really a whole lot of people who like to specialize in the mod motor. So I'm proud to be, supplying our customers with what we think is probably one of the best products out there when it comes to mod motors. And now in 2022, we expanded our horizon further, and we have been doing a lot more LS stuff. There's a Caprice up on the lift behind me. And that's getting a Hens Cam intake package, and that thing is going to be a solid vehicle as well. It has a Circle D stall, it has long tube headers. We had to do some modifications to get the mid pipe to work, so it's all TIG welded stainless. That all turned out really nice, and it's going to be a really good driver. So we are getting into other platforms. We got a Pro Charger kit. We're putting on a couple Hemis. We got 2 of those coming in. And then we're doing some radical stuff. Like we are going to be showcasing you guys a M3. It's a 2003 M3, and we're putting a 2006 M5 V10. And don't quote me on the years, but it's something like that. And that's turning out to be very customized. It's probably going to end up getting like some custom headers. The steering is looking like it's going to be a real pain. Brake booster and ABS is in the way, so that's going to be kind of crazy. And just to foreshadow what else we're going to be bringing to the channel this year as far as content, we raced in like 12 events last year with the white car and a couple other cars. Primarily the white car raced at every single event that we went to. We didn't bring you guys almost any of that footage, so we'll be definitely doing that. We did a lot more street racing last year. We'll be bringing you that content when we go to Mexico. And overall, we have a lot of builds that we're going to be focusing on that are going to address a lot of our time. And the reason that we're going to be able to do this is that we're kind of changing our customer base. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but we are starting to see that some of these big projects, when you guys want these one-off crazy cars, take a ton of time. And there's a reason why big shops, not big shops, but any shop says, oh, well, you should focus on the small jobs. It's simply because of the build time. So when we're doing these big projects, in order for us to maintain doing big projects, we have to just bill for the time. So we get requests for quotes all the time, and it's nearly impossible because none of these cars have the same starting point from one to the next. You know, you don't know who's been in there before, so the quoting is extremely difficult. And I don't want to say like, oh, well, you have to have bottomless pockets, but you really do have to be prepared for the worst. And sometimes I can't even prepare you for the worst in those situations. So anyway, we are focusing on getting our clientele list educated and increasing our communication. So when we move forward with these projects, we can build you the most badass car, the perfect street car that you and I are envisioning, or you and us are envisioning, and make sure that we can provide that to you without having to stop halfway or without being crystal clear on what it's going to cost. And the costs are obviously high, especially in today's market. You know, both parts, product, material, all those things are obviously very high. So it's not a cheap hobby, and you can't really budget for it accordingly. It's very difficult to do. So we're working on that for you. But we are definitely expanding the fabrication side of the business. So if you need, custom turbo kits, we've done a lot of custom headers now. We've done turbo manifolds, hot side, cold side, chassis work. We ordered a tubing bender, so we're going to get into modifying cages, potentially making some cages, but definitely like chassis stiffening. Cages is kind of a big, messy job. So we're definitely going to be doing our own cages for our own personal projects before we decide to offer that service to the public. As of right now, we would just be sticking with like pre-bent cages from like More Race Chassis. If you don't follow them, you can check them out. They have a killer product, and we're happy to install those when they come through here. The last half of this video, real quick, is going to be some of the projects that I foresee happening that I think you guys should stay tuned for. Number one is going to be Dan's Ranger project. Dan has I think it's a 2003 Ford Ranger, and we've had this project lurking in the background. You guys have probably seen the Ranger cab in the corner. You've seen the EcoBoost Mustang that we bought like 3 years ago. Well, that project is finally going to start getting some momentum. That is one of our primary objectives, is to get that thing ready for spring, and that's a personal project. It's really hard to dedicate time to the personal stuff when you're constantly trying to get customer builds done on a particular deadline. So we are putting that on the forefront. That's getting a 2.3 EcoBoost motor. We're already kicking around the idea of going to a larger turbo just right off the bat, although there's a lot of custom things that we're going to do, chassis stiffening being one of them. We're adding some bars to the frame. We're getting the whole frame powder coated before we start reassembling it. If we do go to a bigger turbo, obviously there'll be some custom turbos, custom turbo piping and exhaust and everything like that. Thinking about trying to start doing some titanium on the fab side, so maybe that'll play into that truck and do some really trick shit with it. So that's one project, a EcoBoost big turbo Ranger. That's going to actually be a drift orientated build. So it's going to be a street car, but it's not going to be a street strip car. It's going to be a slide street car. Street and slide? Yeah, street and slide car sounds good. I could stick with that. So that's going to be a street and slide car. And that's going to be a really, really fun one. Dan's Everyday Ranger, he put a hydraulic handbrake in it. It's super fun to drive, NA. Ben's got a old turbo Ranger. You guys will see that. We built a turbo manifold for that, custom hot side. Repurposed the cold side, so it's a little botched, but it turned out way nicer than it was. We took off 20 T-bolt clamps and narrowed it down to like 6. So we took a lot of weight off the front end just with that alone. But that has a small T3, T4 hybrid. It has a Mega Squirt on it. It's got 48-pound injectors in it now. We're running on like 14 pounds of boost, but it's super fun to slide around. And, not to discredit the car at all, but it's a beater. So you really, well, if you guys are real car people, you know that when you have a car that you really don't have to care about as much, you don't feel so bad about whooping its ass all the time. So it becomes a lot of fun to drive. We recirculated the wastegate on that, so it's still kind of stealthy, but it makes all the right turbo noises. You guys will be seeing a lot more on that this year, I'm sure, as the Ranger, Dan's Ranger evolves. That Ranger will be in the picture. Of course, we're still doing a million mod motor builds. We have 3 of them or 4 of them at the shop right now. The ones that are behind me are 2 that you guys haven't really seen much on, and I will be touching more on them in a future video. But this one has a complete SSP built 4.6 with RGR engine machine work. It's got RGR custom cams. It's got a 3-liter Whipple. It's 10-to-1 compression. It's got long tube headers. It does not have a T56 Magnum, but it has a full built IRS system. We're waiting to get this one on the dyno, and I am looking forward to what it's going to make. I think this combination is going to make more than this combination, but this one you'll see a ton of because this is for one of our personal projects. We have purchased in a previous video that we also did. I'll put the link to these videos above my head. But this is for the black Cobra that we bought. It was basically looked like an abandoned car. So real quick rundown on this. This has a 9.2-ish to 1 short block. A little lower compression than we would typically run, but the short block came with the car. The heads are ported. It has comp stage 3 cams that I got off one of the Cobra forums. Just used, they're in good condition. So this one's kind of budget orientated. We didn't go off the rails. The Gen 3R we bought damaged and had jokers go through it and port it, so it's a ported Gen 3. Obviously it has a slew of Metco parts on it. It has the GT500 throttle body. It has ARH headers. Everything that you see on this motor, Streetcar Shenanigans Performance, touched, and more importantly, we are dealers for all these components. So these are all companies that we support. These are all companies that support us. So if you have any questions about any of these things ever, just message us, email us, whatever, we can get in touch. But this thing should be kind of a contender for this thing. They're both kind of, call it max effort. Obviously the Gen 3 Whipple has been getting, or the Gen 5 Whipple 3-liter has been getting more attention as the higher horsepower candidate between these two. But I think we're still going to be very impressed with what this combination is going to do. And I think it might even make a little bit more low-end torque because the VMPs typically come on a little bit harder. So 2 super sick Cobra builds that we'll be bringing you guys updates on. We have several other Cobra builds that are in the process. We are working on a GT500 that's getting a piggyback standalone. That's going to get a 3.8 Whipple, a built rear end. We just put a stage 6 RPM transmission 6060 in it, and it's already got a built motor with cams. So our goal with that is to make over 1,100 horsepower as a stick positive displacement blower car with flex fuel and boost control using some new products that are on the market these last couple years. So that's going to be super cool. And now I'm just running my mouth, but there is a lot of cool projects. Not to mention the Tramp will be back out this year. We bent the crank last year. I'll bring you guys a separate video just on the Tramp motor debacle because that was a total nightmare. We spent a ton of money on the Tramp last year, and overall was a fail. Made a bunch of power. It was tons of fun to drive on the street. Ran into a bunch of problems. Broke the crank. Valve train wasn't keeping up. All these things that I thought was going to be, it really wasn't. We have really cool fab projects coming on. We're kind of starting to call the fab site SSP Fab, so Streetcar Shenanigans Performance Fabrications is a really long name. So for short, we call it kind of that side of the shop SSP Fab. We've been doing custom housings. We're making our own brackets. We're making our own modifications to existing chassis work, narrowing rear ends, mini tubs, custom trunks, custom turbo kits, hot side, cold side piping, pro charger installs, supercharger kit piping, whatever you could think of. We've gotten really deep into making our own stuff and making it at a level that is, show quality, I would say. Obviously I learned how to weld on YouTube, so I've really put forth a lot of effort into doing it as best as I can, as fast as I can, and I think it's starting to show. So if you haven't seen any of that style or that work from us, be sure to follow us on Instagram because that's what sees kind of the most of the fabrication side of our shop here. So overall, wrap up this video. It's been a lot longer than I intended to keep you guys here, and if you're still watching it, please subscribe to see all these builds in the future, to see the customer builds that we're being showcased as we go along. But to wrap it up, we do plan on bringing you guys 1 video a week. That's kind of the resolution, is to make sure that you guys stay in tune. And sometimes those videos might be really short, just little excerpts from the week here at the shop, and sometimes they might be a little bit long-winded, talking head videos like this. But please stay along for the ride. we are already working on a new apparel line for Streetcar Shenanigans Performance, so you guys will start seeing some graphic tees and stuff like that we're designing. And we really just want to take Streetcar Shenanigans to the next level overall. So if you're new to seeing us, subscribe, hang out, check out some of the old videos on the channel. And if you have already been here since the beginning, make sure you leave a comment down below as your favorite build that you've seen in the past, because I always like seeing those comments. And hopefully we can bring some more of them to you here shortly. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll see you guys next time.